Hi guys, this is Danielle over at DIYDanielle.com, and today I want to show you how to make an easy balloon cover. And these just have an opening for a balloon to go inside and get blown up. And that way you can tuck the balloon away inside so that if your kid bites on it, it doesn't pop and go in their mouth. The balloon cover makes it a little bit more durable for animals. I wouldn't necessarily give it to your pet on purpose, but obviously if you have pets and kids, the animals are around the toys. But it makes it a little safer for your kids. It still has an opening, so the end of the balloon could still come out. So you still need to supervise, but it makes it easier and you don't have to worry about your kid putting the balloon in their mouth, which I have 3 kids and every single one of them has done this. I don't know if it's every kid, but feel free to leave a comment and tell me about your balloon stories, because I swear they think it's chocolate. I don't know what the deal is. So we are going to make it today with the Cricut Maker, which is a machine from the company Cricut. And this machine is their latest machine that cuts fabric. It also cuts everything else the old Cricuts made, but now it cuts fabric without needing a backing material. So what we have is we have our fabric cutting mat. And mine's kind of fuzzy because I was doing another project on it. I actually made tooth fairy pillows with this last, and I used fleece, and the fleece is still a little on here. But I did wipe it off with a wipe, and yeah, pretty much like cleaning wipes, disposable wipe for babies work well to clean things off. I've got my Cricut Maker here, and I've got my computer. Now, the thing about the Cricut Maker is that you can use patterns that are already on there and set up. So you don't actually have to design this pattern. So kind of like you might print vinyl like that says certain words. Sometimes you get the SVG file or you download something off the design space. In this case, you get the pattern, which is kind of neat. It's kind of a neat feature for the Maker. Instead of buying a pattern at the store and taking it home and cutting the pattern out from the big thing of thin, crappy paper. Instead of going through all that hassle, you get the pattern on Design Space. I think some of them cost money, but I have the access plan, so I get access to a bunch of different patterns. And it'll tell you which sections to put on your mat at each time. And you just put it in, and it cuts the pattern for you. If this worked for large size clothing, that'd be awesome. It really makes more sense for small items, like we did tooth fairy pillows, and this time I'm going to do the balloon cover, and you know, little purses, that sort of thing. It works really well for those things. For big items, honestly, I think it's probably just more efficient for your time to cut big items out. Like if you're making a shirt or pants or something for an adult, I would definitely say that you know, hand cutting is easier. But for small projects like this, especially things like tooth fairy pillows where there's like lots of nooks and crannies, it's really helpful to have the machine cut it because it's got a rotary cutter in there. And the rotary cutter is very, like the blade is really small compared to the rotary cutter you'd use from like Fiskars or whatever company, where it's hard to get into small curves. And this is a problem I always have when I'm doing smaller projects. That's why I like working with bigger projects, just because it's easier to cut and deal with all the fabric. So this does it for me, which is really nice. I've got the blade. I actually keep it right on my machine. It's a special rotary blade, and you can see I did a blog post about the Cricut Maker on my blog for people who sew. It's specific to sewing, although I do cover other things too. But it's got this cool little blade, and you can see pictures. Let's see if we are. So as you can see, it's just a very small blade, and this housing piece, I think it's called the housing piece, I don't know, whatever. It's got like a, let's see. Ah, there you are. This allows it to turn in the machine and do tight corners and stuff. It's pretty neat. And it just snaps right in. It snaps right into where you'd normally have your cutting piece. So this is my normal blade. I'm just going to put that to the side, and I can snap this right in from my thing. And I need to turn my machine on because it's not on right now. And I need to pull my machine away from my wall. My sewing room's really tight right now. I've been doing Christmas projects and we just moved, so everything's not unpacked, so it's a huge mess. Honestly, my sewing room's usually a mess, to be completely honest, just because I usually am just throwing things together and trying to get things done and videos done. And my pickup game, I'm not good about picking up. So while I'm sitting here letting this print, the nice thing about this is it's gonna cut, and I'm gonna start doing some cleanup while it's cutting, so that's kind of nice. But anyways, you want it far enough away from the wall so that the mat doesn't hit it. So I've got my computer up, and I'm gonna connect my my cord. This is this also does Bluetooth, but I prefer to have a direct connection. I don't like dealing with setting up Bluetooth on this. So when you go to this, it's got an option for a fabric marking pen. I don't use the fabric marking pen. I have it. I have yet to use it. It might make my life easier. I think what it's doing is it just marks off your seam allowance. I don't need that information. I know how to measure it out myself. If you want to do that and you want your seam allowance marked, go ahead and use a fabric marking pen. It'll make your life easier. So I can actually turn off the fabric marking pen section, and I just click the little button. There's a little slider. Slide it over and turn it off. So it's got I have to load my mat 3 times here because it's cutting a total of 6 pieces. This is a great project that if you want to do more than one ball, you can go ahead and cut extra. Each one is loaded on a 12 by 12 mat. There are options to use bigger mats for most projects, but we don't need it for this. So what I want to do is I want to pick 3 coordinating fabrics so that I can have like each panel look different. So it's kind of fun. So I am going to come over here and just cut some fabric to lay that is 12 by 12 on here. Now the one thing I would suggest is if you plan on doing a lot of fabric cutting with your maker, you could actually purchase a couple fabric grip mats so that you could have them all ready to go. That way you have less downtime. Now, one of the things you want to consider while you're doing this is what type of fabric you want to cut. Now, when you're working with, well, for one, you might want a fabric that's not going to fray all over your mat. Personally, I like to work with knits and items that don't fray a lot. One, because I have a lot of them, which is just a silly reason, but it is what it is. But the other reason, it's just nice to know it's not going to fray. And in this case, we're going to be adding a small hole that we can put our balloon through. And it's a really good idea to use a non-fraying fabric, because while you can finish that hole and finish the edges so it won't fray, it makes it a whole lot easier if you don't have to do that. So let me get some fabric to put on this. Now, one thing I noticed is on my screen, I'm only using the 0 through 8.5 part. Now, I only want to cut my fabric for that because I don't want to waste fabric if I don't have to. Now, I'm going to insert it in here. You press the load button. And I'm going to click continue on my computer screen. It allows me to select my device, which is already set up, and I'm going to set my material. This is a knit fabric, so I have to click browse, and I'm going to go down to fabric and find knit. Hopefully rotary blade in. I'm just going to press the Cricut button because it's blinking. And my project is otherwise ready to go. Boom. There, or less pieces, I guess. Alright, so Alrighty, so I'm gonna have to wipe that down again. But we have 6 pieces now. We have... Okay, so in one of these pieces, we want to add a small slit to use for, to put the balloon through. You want it right in the middle because otherwise it's going to interfere with where you're sewing. You don't want to sew it closed. So I'm going to use the black because I feel like that's a nice, kind of, you'll be able to see the end of the balloon if it pops through. So I'm just going to use my, just real small, just like small enough to put the end of the balloon through, but not too big so that it'll slip back through. Okay, this is the point where we sew these pieces together. And again, this isn't a complicated thing. What was I going to say? Oh my god. Oh, if you are using a fraying fabric, you need to finish the edges of the area you cut. I am not. I'm not going to bother because why add extra steps? That's where I'm at. So you want to know which fabrics you want lined up with which sections. And I'm going to face the 2 sections that are next to each other together and right sides together. So the pretty side of the fabric to the pretty side of the fabric. You see this matched up? I'm just going to sew a straight stitch. If you use the marker, it actually marked out for you where the seam allowance for it. So you can see it opens up and it's just fine. So now I'm going to take the next fabric and face it right sides together with the blue, which is my next color. Now with knit fabric, make sure you're not stretching it while you're sewing. This is not doing that. Alright, so you're at this point, all your pieces are attached. You are going to cut these. So now that we have every single piece attached, we want to place the first piece and the last piece we sewed on right sides together. Again, this is the same thing. Now, if our hole is large enough, we can just pull it through there when we're finished. Otherwise, we do want to leave a small area to turn and top stitch it. I don't like hand sewing. I'm going to try to pull it through the hole. It's knit fabric, which is convenient because it'll stretch for me. And you can just snip off all your extra strings because if you're like me, you left them to the last. Alright, now I'm going to find where my hole is. There we are. And I can pull my fabric, I can pull my fabric through the hole. The hole is just big enough and the fabric's pretty lightweight. If I was doing this with a thicker fabric, I might not want to do that. Okay, when you go to blow this up, just find your hole, take your balloon, push the top of your balloon in and leave your part to blow it up right here. There you go. Balloon. as you can see, you can still see the balloon's belly button. You can just tuck that right under if you want. When you're done, you can pop the balloon to pull it out. So, as you can see, it's a fun play toy still.